Good morning, everyone.
Hi, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Any questions from what we discussed last time? ठीक है. In case no question, so I think हम business model discuss कर रहे थे. Yeah. Did we conclude on our discussion? क्या case study लिया था मैंने इस batch में? We took what? Google. Sorry.
No, it was of Starbucks.
Yeah. So did we conclude that discussion?
Yes, sir. We concluded it, and today you were going to brush up upon a bit of the model of how Apple works.
How Apple works. Okay. Okay. So we can talk about Apple also. Okay. So before I move to Apple's Starbucks में किसी को कुछ question नहीं है, correct? Yeah, we are good to close that. ठीक है. So for Apple, I don't recollect that we had any discussion or we presented, but in case you guys are interested in discussing Apple, you can do that as well. So yes, let's do the same thing. So I'll give you 5 minutes. Gather your thoughts in terms of what's your understanding of the Apple, what are different products or services that and then we can discuss. Okay, so 5 minutes. Please start from a product side. Think of what are the products that Apple is into, and then we'll start discussing in terms of the way they strategize and the way they rolled out each of these. So 5 minutes there also. It's 10:15. We'll start discussing this at 10:20. But I want you to get to those individual thoughts, please. Last 1 minute, guys, please. Yeah, Andy. So what is according to you the business model for Apple? Let's get some space. Yeah, let's talk there. Andy.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, good morning. So
Yeah.
basically what Apple is offering are its premium products, which is specifically targeted to the upper class society. And apart from its product, it is known for its safety and reliability of the products. Like to hack an iPhone or to hack any Apple product is quite a bit tough task. It's not easily hackable. So its main USP is its data privacy, according to me.
But what are the products? What are the Apple products that they're selling?
They are into mobile phones and Mac and the accessories like AirPods and wireless charger, wearables, smart wearables. Then
ये तो एक
Apple TV.
ये तो एक बहुत छोटा segment है उसके business का, correct? It's not the main segment that they are only into, right? तो ठीक है. Others, मोबाइल फोन्स हो गया, मोबाइल फोन रिलेटेड एसेसरीज हो गया, उसके अलावा
Mac.
ठीक है, मैक हो गया. और
Apple is also interested in software products like iOS, Mac iOS, iPad iOS.
they are into operating system as well. That's
Yes.
where they're most of the big piece of the revenue what comes in.
Or they
So,
believe in
go ahead.
they believe in innovation and customer-centric research. They always every year in September they launch their new product every time.
सर वो एक ऐसे ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम मतलब सेल करता है जिससे हम लोग सिक्योरिटी ब्रीच नहीं होती है जिससे एप्पल की मे बी.
यार वो सिक्योरिटी ब्रीच वो एक अपने में मिथ है, ठीक है. सो rather than getting into this, I would call it they are into operating system, which they call it to be कि हाँ, it's not easy for someone to crack, but there have been instances in the past where people are able to even hack those, correct? So उसको थोड़ा marketing side को side रखते हैं, but yes, they're into operating system, they're into mobile phone, they're into MacBook और operating system इसके अलावा और
they charge revenue through application software like iCloud, Apple Pay, or
yeah. They are into storage, cloud storage business as well, very similar to Google.
yes.
So, for example, if you want to store, for example, your iPhone, correct? So, if you want to store some
Yes.
data on the cloud up to a particular limit, or it's free. But if you want to, if your data exceeds beyond that limit and you want to use the Apple Cloud services for storing your data, then of course you have to pay. It's like a renting out space for keeping your data. ठीक है. और
Sir, Siddharth here. Actually, I heard one more thing for Apple. They are launching some card, like a credit card. So they are coming to this business also.
credit card.
Yeah, like wallet. They have a Apple wallet. Okay, and it's already launched in US.
already there है ना हाँ so
Yeah,
it's already there. जैसे Google का अपना है.
correct, sir.
It's a very simple same similar to Google or Paytm. तो ठीक है.
Right.
और what are more products and services? Us? They're also into the technology innovations. So guys, उसमें क्या होता है? You create some technology and you get that patented. ठीक है? So Apple का कुछ pieces वहाँ some piece of revenue comes from that as well. So what happens? Once you get those technology or those innovations patented in their name, so they are able to charge royalty from someone who wants to use the technology. It's very similar to operating system, correct? So मैंने एक operating system create कर दिया, Samsung को अगर मेरा operating system use करना है, Samsung has to pay that royalty to me. Okay, so it's a very similar setup, but operating system is one of those examples. उसमें they do innovations into some other form of technologies as well. Primarily into the software side, not too aggressive on the hardware side, but yes, their focus of innovations is more on the software side. So these are the primary segments in the businesses which they operate. In terms of the processes and inputs, so these are some of the deliverables or outputs. In terms of processes, it's completely technology based. Okay. In terms of their strategy, somebody mentioned it about the premiumness. So yes, for most of their segments, they try and they strategize or they position the product more on into the higher price bracket, and that's why they try and position the entire Apple as a brand as a premium brand and premium product. Okay, so that's one of their strategy throughout. But India में थोड़ा ज़्यादा दिखता है because of we're still into that journey of moving from a growing economy to from a developing economy to a developed economy. But when I was in the US, you don't see too much of differentiation because the way the Apple operate it is pretty BAU. You don't so it's not seen as too much of a premium product. It's still as seen as more of a BAU product or a product which you'll see 95% of the people using those products of the brand. So it's a थोड़ा सा difference in the way it works out in India from a positioning perspective vis-a-vis some of the other market like US and UK. Okay. Anything else? Anybody wants to add anything to this? Any questions on an Apple? Sneha, I think आपने पूछा था, so कुछ query questions उसमें.
No, sir. So basically, why we were like last lecture, I think we discussed a bit of Apple is because like Starbucks, even Apple delivers status, you know, at a premium price.
Yeah, so थोड़ा difference है Apple और Starbucks में. The Apple is they've positioned the pricing of the product into that segment so that they can call themselves as the premium product. Okay, so the strategy is to ensure that they continue to be called as premium. But where Starbucks, they've priced, they've been forced to price like this because of their business model or their strategy. Because if they're opening a cafe, an outlet, जहाँ पे you're allowing 100 people to come in, but people to place an order, and out of the 100 people, only 20 people probably on an average might place an order, or let's say around 30 people will place an order. So then, which means you're incurring a cost of rent, space, and managing that infrastructure for 70 people, but those 70 people are not creating a revenue for you, which means उन 70 लोगों की जो कॉस्ट है वो भी मुझे रिकवर वो 30 लोगों की कॉफी से ही करनी पड़ेगी या 30 लोगों के ऑर्डर से करनी पड़ेगी. And that's the reason for those 30 people, the pricing goes up. And because pricing has gone up in India, we see that as a premium product. So I hope you understand the difference. So Starbucks do not want it to price like this, but because of the business model, they are pricing like this, and hence it is being now called as a premium product because the coffee is on the expensive side. Whereas the Apple, they're strategically positioning themselves as a premium product because they want that to be differentiated vis-a-vis others. It's like Mercedes or a BMW strategically keeping themselves at a higher price range to ensure that they are content to call as one of those luxurious car manufacturers, or they are selling those expensive cars. स्नेहा समझ आया थोड़ा डिफरेंस है in terms of
Yes.
thought process and strategy. आउटपुट जो है, जो एंड रिजल्ट है कि दोनों ही केस में प्राइस ऊपर से जाता है प्रोडक्ट का, वो सेम ही.
Yeah. So you mean in short that अगर if I'm buying an Apple phone, I'll use it. जबकि Starbucks में, even if I go and sit, there's somebody else paying for me.
Exactly.
Even if I don't buy the coffee, right?
Exactly. So for example, Apple में अगर 100 customers हैं तो every 100 customers would have paid individually to Apple to become an Apple user. But in a Starbucks, if you and me go to Starbucks, I might not place an order, but still I might use Starbucks facility or infrastructure, and hence I'm using their facility, but I'm not generating a revenue. So वो जो cost है, वो मेरी cost आपको लेनी पड़ेगी, because when you go and place an order, so my cost will also be recovered from you. And hence the price of the coffee is gone. Okay. Anybody else? Any other question on this? Okay. So in case no, so these are some of the examples of some of the companies. So what you need to do, we've discussed cafe. We've discussed Starbucks, which is similar to Cafe Coffee Day. We've discussed Apple, which is very similar to Google, and to a certain extent similar to Amazon. What you need to do is now you need to individually pick a company, which you've not discussed in the class, and you need to start analyzing the business model of that company. So that's your assignment or home assignment, and we will discuss that in the next week, not tomorrow, next week, next weekend. So is that clear to everyone? क्या करना है?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so now moving to the next section. So once you understand the business model, the next part is understanding the revenue parts of it. From where do you get a revenue? Okay, of course, this revenue will come from your products. Okay, primarily the company will earn revenue from their products and services, but in certain cases, the example that we discussed, Apple, they might get the royalties as well through their patents. So does everybody understand royalty? So royalty is, for example, I create something, I get registered on my name, but let's say you want to use it. So if you have to use it, you have to pay me a rent to use the technology or innovation. That's not called as rent legally, that's called as royalty. Is this royalty part and patent part clear to you?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So now, if the company wants to grow, the growth of the company can come from two categories. One is the organic growth, and second is inorganic growth. So what do you mean by organic growth? Organic growth is the growth where the company grows from within, which means, for example, ICICI Bank. So ICICI Bank today suppose have 10 branches. They slowly increase from 10 to 11, 11 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25. they're slowly growing, they're expanding and they're setting up new branches. That's called as organic growth. The second is an inorganic growth, which is not there in the slide, but still I will explain that. It's called as inorganic growth. What do inorganic growth? ICICI Bank has 10 branches. They acquire, let's assume, another bank which has another 5 branches. So you move from 10 to 15 directly. That's called as inorganic growth. So inorganic growth is a growth that you achieve through mergers and acquisitions. Organic growth is something that you achieve, you grow, you become big inside by step by expanding your business, not through mergers and acquisitions. That's the difference in organic and inorganic growth. Any doubt on this?
No.
No, sir.
And the now from this session perspective, this module perspective, our focus would be on organic growth. We'll try and understand more because we are looking at the forecasting perspective. So most of the companies' revenue forecast is dependent on the organic growth. So our focus, at least for today and couple of more sessions, would be on the organic growth. Now we're moving to the revenue modeling from here on. Now, थोड़ा सा यहाँ से complication start हो जाएगा. A lot of number crunching will start coming in. A lot of formulas will start coming in because यहाँ से हम forecasting modeling start कर रहे हैं, जो actual forecasting modeling है. So what we're starting off first is a revenue modeling. What do you mean revenue modeling? We will try and understand into these next couple of slides, or in a little more than couple of slides, is how do we create model for forecasting revenue? What are the different formulas that we use? What are different tools and techniques for which we try and forecast revenue for the company? So now, if I say myself, suppose my revenue for the previous year is 100 rupees. So did I create an Excel for a batch? So suppose my revenue, for, let's assume, 2019 is 100 rupees, and I say, okay, for 2020, my revenue is expected to grow at 10%. If this is the statement, then how would I compute my revenue for 2020? My revenue for 2020 would be revenue for 2019 into 1 plus 10%. Correct? Any questions on this?
No.
So this is the same formula. The first formula is the same. So revenue. So Y means current year. So if I'm forecasting a revenue for 2020, so 2020 revenue means revenue of 2019 into 1 plus Y on Y growth. What do you mean Y on Y growth? Is it year on year growth? So any doubt on the first formula, guys? Any doubt on the first? Okay. Now the question is, how do you compute this growth? So this growth is, so as I told you, this growth can come from two sources, primarily two sources. So your growth as we discussed will come from your organic growth. And second will be your inorganic growth. The sum of these will give you total growth, which is this, and which in turn is used in this formula. Without answer.
Sir, please repeat the last line.
So should discuss what is the formula for the forecast of revenue. So formula for forecasting of the revenue is the previous year revenue into 1 plus G. That's what we discuss here. Previous year revenue into 1 plus G. Is that clear, Harsh? जो यहाँ पे slide में first formula है.
Yes, actually, I lost internet connection in last 2 seconds.
Okay. So now if you play with this, then from where would you get growth? So growth comes from two sources. One is the organic growth. Organic growth is where the company grow from within. Actually company खुद grow करती है, फिर expand करती है. Inorganic growth is किसी और company को acquire करती है, तो वो उसकी growth company की growth हो जाती है. So hence the growth of the company will be, one is organic growth and second is inorganic growth. इन दोनों का sum will give the total growth of the company. Any doubt?
No, it's clear.
Okay. Anybody else? Any question in this? Okay. Now, the third is an FX impact. Let's understand what is FX impact. FX stands for foreign exchange, foreign currency. So, for example, your sales, which is primarily exports, right? So, your exports, let's assume for 2019 is $100. The USD में आपका sales, USD is US dollar. 2019 your sales is $100. ठीक है, और USD INR exchange rate in 2019 is, let's assume, 50. तो ये आपके INR sales हो जाएगी. फिर INR sales is 100 into 50. यहाँ तक किसी को डाउट?
No, sir.
Let's assume 2020 you again has exports of $100, but the exchange rate has moved to, let's assume, 70 in 1 year. So now your INR sales becomes 7,000. Now, if you look at only these two numbers, technically you will see the company has grown from 5,000 sales to a 7,000 rupees sale. But technically, company ने actual dollar में sales same ही किया है. It's a currency impact. It's an impact on the exchange rate, which has resulted in this growth. But technically there is no actual fundamental growth in the company. Any doubt? Any doubt?
No, sir.
So the third, this third one is called as FX impact, which means your growth because of the foreign currency movement. Any doubt in this? Any doubt in this? Are we clear with this? So which means
Yes, sir, clear.
this is what the second formula says. So the second formula is your Y on Y growth, your organic growth plus M&A. M&A is nothing but inorganic growth. जो मैंने बोला. The third category is FX impact. The organic growth, then you have inorganic growth, and then you have FX impact.
Sir, what is full form of M&A?
Merger and acquisition.
Oh, okay.
Anji, any questions? Okay. In case no, now how do we compute revenue for the company? Revenue for the company is so sales of the company. So company का एक price होता है, price per unit जिसको बोलते हैं, और company की quantity होती है. So for example, price is 10 rupees और company ने actually 70 units बेचे हैं. So company total sales कितनी हो जाएगी? 10 rupees का per product है, 70 unit total sales 700 rupees. Is this clear to everyone? Sales. So sales is equal to volume into price or quantity into price per unit. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that's what the third formula is. The third formula is revenue is equal to volume into price. Any doubt in first three formulas? I'm giving you 30 seconds to solve this and see in case any doubt. Guys, please focus. This will become heavy. I would try and keep it. I will try and keep it small for you so that बहुत ज़्यादा heavy मैं करा दूँगा, then you will have a problem. So probably in a couple of sessions you see I will try and probably use a different strategy in terms of the content that I will give. But what we are moving into, we have started into the revenue modeling and forecasting technique. We started discussing the forecasting technique, especially those who don't come from who are not comfortable with the numbers, who don't come from mathematics background and not comfortable with too much of formulas. ये काफी heavy होना शुरू हो जाएगा. So please focus. I will try and keep it relatively light by giving less content and try and do small topics in small sessions so that you get some breather to go back and absorb. But you need to focus because this is not work like very theoretical session that you just sit and listen without paying too much of attention. So any doubt in first three formulas?
सर inorganic growth एक बार रिपीट कर दीजिए.
Inorganic growth होता है जो आप merger acquisition से आती है, किसी कंपनी को
Sir,
acquire करते हैं.
सर that I know, but Excel में आपने कैसे बताया था उसको?
एक्सेल मैंने इनऑर्गेनिक ग्रोथ कहाँ बताया अभी? एक्सेल में मैंने सिर्फ ये टोटल ग्रोथ कराया अभी.
Inorganic growth. ठीक. I thought I missed that part. Sorry.
Anybody else any other question? Okay. So now, how do we compute volume? Now we're discussing how this is calculated. Now, my volume is dependent on my capacity of the production? Yes or no? If my capacity is 100 units, I cannot sell more than 100 units in that year. Guys,
Right, sir.
but if I have a capacity of 100 units, it does not mean I will always produce 100 units. So that's the reason you have a concept called capacity utilization rate. What does this mean, capacity utilization rate? So suppose it turns out to be 80%, which means you operate at 80% level, which means even if your capacity is 100, your capacity is to produce 100 units, but you generally operate at 80% utilization, which means you generally produce around 80 units, not 100 units. Let me give you an example of this. For example, if your car has a maximum capacity from a speed perspective, let's assume 200 kilometers per hour. That's your engine capacity. That does not mean you run your car on that speed, correct? Even if there's no traffic and if you're running on a highway, you still might be operating that system hypothetically at 100 kilometers per hour. So on an average, you do not drive more than that. That's the way you drive your car. So that means your capacity utilization rate for your engine out of 200 kilometers per hour is only 100 kilometers per hour. Guys, समझ आया? Yes or no? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes.
So hence, my actual quantity that I will produce, which is my volume, will be capacity to produce into utilization rate. Yeah, no. Which is what the next formula is. That the volume is equal to your capacity of the production into your utilization rate. देख लीजिए जॉब करिए कुछ क्वेश्चन तो पूछे. Guys, is volume clear? The formula for volume. Are we good to move? As I'm again repeating, the way you need to understand, you need to understand couple of things in each formula. So one, you need to understand what's the logic of the formula, how the formula has been constructed. Okay, these are the couple of things you need to understand for each of the formula, because what will happen when I will take you the modeling sessions where we'll do live modeling, unless you understand probably the logics of each of these formula, you will not be able to create this into Excel and you will not be able to put this into modeling pieces. So you need to understand how the formula is being constructed and what's the logic behind these. So any doubt in first four? Okay, I take that no as no. You have no question. So I move to fifth formula, which is capacity. Now this is simple, correct? So let's assume your previous year capacity was 100 units. So my 2019 capacity is to produce 100 units. मेरी 2019 की capacity ये है, तो 2020 की capacity कितनी होगी? Previous year capacity plus or minus the change. So in this year, suppose because of the COVID and this pandemic, I have given one, I've sell off one of my machinery, and earlier I used to have two machines, and each machine used to produce 50 units. Hence my total capacity was 50 plus 50, 100 units. But during this COVID, I've sold off one of the machine because there's no demand and I have no space to keep those things. So now my current capacity is 50. Similarly, if I would have purchased new machine, so it would have been 100 plus another 50. So is that clear? How do we compute the fifth formula, which is capacity? Capacity is the previous year capacity plus and minus the change. In the slide, it only says plus, but in the real world we do both sides, plus and minus. Any question on the fifth formula?
सर एक बार आप एक्सेल में दिखाइए क्या?
Yes, sir.
सर एक बार आप एक्सेल में एक्सप्लेन करिएगा सर.
कौन सा चीज?
ये कैपेसिटी का जो फॉर्मूला है वो.
हाँ, ये तो सिंपल है. सो लेट मी पुट द एक्सेल. सो सपोज आपका 2019 का कैपेसिटी 100 यूनिट्स है, एंड 2020 में आपने एक नई मशीन खरीदी है. 2020 में आपने एक नई मशीन खरीदी है, तो आपकी कैपेसिटी 2020 कितनी हो जाएगी? 100 plus 50, because this 50 is a new machine that you purchased. So your capacity is the previous year capacity plus the addition. हाँ सिद्धार्थ, is that clear or be doubt?
हाँ सर, मुझे थोड़ा कंफ्यूजन था. क्लियर है.
ठीक है. Anybody else? Any other question? ठीक है. So we're done with this. Then the next is capacity utilization rate. Now, so capacity utilization rate is your previous year capacity utilization rate plus minus any BPS point. So BPS is basis points. 100 basis point means 1%. 200 basis point means 2%, and so on. So 100 basis point means 1%. So for example, in 2019, I was operating at 80%. And due to COVID, I decided, okay, don't operate at 80%. We need to decrease, let's assume 500 basis point. So my new capacity utilization would be 80% minus 5%, and hence 75%. So यहाँ पे plus लिखा हुआ है. So it's not real world में plus. It's always not plus. It is plus and minus both. So जब formula note कर रहे हैं for your notes, you should say plus and minus. It could be either of the sides. Plus or minus the percentage change or the BPS change. That's your capacity utilization rate. Any doubt on this?
Sir, if there is a defective in capacity, it can become in capacity utilization rate.
सॉरी डिफेक्टिव मतलब समझा नहीं हूँ.
In defective in capacity, if there's 100 units, it can, if there's in 20 units is defective from 100. In production came in 80, there's a 20 unit defective came.
हाँ तो वो
Defective item.
सेल्स रिटर्न में आएगा ना. करेक्ट. सो अगर आपने 100 यूनिट प्रोड्यूस किया और आपने 100 यूनिट सेल कर दिया, सो आई डोंट नो व्हेन यू से डिफेक्टिव, सो द वन जनरली द रियल वर्ल्ड में ऐसे होता है कि आपने सेल कर दिया और आपके डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर से प्रोडक्ट वापस आ जाता है. सो व्हिच मींस यू रिकॉर्ड दोस अंडर सेल्स रिटर्न. अगर आपने सेल करने से पहले ही प्रोडक्शन के स्टेज पे आइडेंटिफाई कर लिया, तो देन एनीवे इट विल नॉट बी पार्ट ऑफ योर सेल्स.
Okay.
हाँ जी. Anybody else any other question? Okay. So moving to the last formula on this slide, it's the price per unit. So we've discussed this quantity. Okay, how do we calculate this? Now we're discussing this price. So price कैसे निकलेगा? So price of 2020 is equal to what? So generally the price of 19 into 1 plus inflation rate. Correct? 2020 के प्रोडक्ट का प्राइस क्या है? 2019 के प्रोडक्ट का प्राइस that has gone up by inflation.
Correct, sir.
किसी को डाउट याद है? ठीक है. Similarly, now there's also possibility कि एक तो इन्फ्लेशन की वजह से आपका प्राइस बढ़ सकता है, एंड सेम इज जो मैंने आपको समझाया, करेंसी की वजह से प्राइस बढ़ सकता है आपका. यहाँ पे एग्जांपल दे दो. लेट मी गिव एग्जांपल टू द करेंसी में प्राइस. फॉर एग्जांपल, आप प्रोडक्ट को इंपोर्ट करते हैं $1 पे. तो बोलिए 2019 कि आपकी जो कॉस्ट है, आपकी जो इंपोर्ट कॉस्ट है, वो यूएसडी में $1 है और एक्सचेंज रेट 50 है. तो आपका प्रॉफिट मार्जिन मान लो ₹5 है. तो आपका सेलिंग प्राइस कितना हो गया? दिस इंटू दिस प्लस दिस. हाँ या ना? अब $1 का एक प्रोडक्ट इंपोर्ट करते हो और उस पे ₹5 का अपना प्रॉफिट मार्जिन लगाते हो, तो आप इंडिया में ₹55 का बेचोगे, 55 INR का बेचोगे.
Yes, sir.
सेलिंग प्राइस INR में है. सिमिलरली 2020 में अभी भी आप इंपोर्ट $1 का कर रहे हो, बट एक्सचेंज रेट 70 का हो गया. सो ना, और आपके लिए अभी प्रॉफिट मार्जिन ₹5 का ही है. सो नथिंग हैज चेंज फॉर यू, बट स्टिल आपको प्रोडक्ट कितने का बेचना पड़ेगा? प्राइस ₹75 का. राइट? हाँ या ना?
Yes, sir.
Right, sir. But सिर्फ परसेंटेज ऑफ प्रॉफिट मार्जिन कम हो गया.
नहीं कम हुआ ना, सेम ही था. हाँ, परसेंटेज
Sir.
कम हो गया, एब्सोल्यूट वैल्यू
हाँ. करेक्ट सर.
तो यानी मेरा जो फॉर्मूला है वहां पे इन्फ्लेशन के अलावा FX भी आना चाहिए प्राइस में,
Correct, sir. Correct, sir.
and that's what the last formula is.
Sir, I have a doubt.
बोलो.
सर बेसिकली जब भी मास प्रोडक्शन होता है तो अगर हम लोग प्रोडक्शन टोटल प्रोडक्शन यूनिट्स का अगर बात करें तो व्हेन यू आर प्रोड्यूसिंग मोर यूनिट्स योर एवरेज कॉस्ट प्राइस गोज डाउन, राइट? तो इसको अपने ये इन प्राइस पर यूनिट इसको अपने कैसे एडजस्ट करेंगे? आई हैव डाउट बट आई कैन फ्रेम इट इन वर्ड्स लाइक इकोनॉमिक्स ऑफ स्केल को कैसे कैसे इंपैक्ट दिखाएंगे उसका?
बट वो कॉस्ट मॉडलिंग में
Like-
आएगा ना हर्ष, जो आप बात कर रहे हो दैट इज माय कॉस्ट, दैट इज माय पार्ट ऑफ माय कॉस्ट मॉडलिंग, नॉट रेवेन्यू मॉडलिंग. If I produce
But sir,
large quantity, if I produce large quantity, my cost per unit goes down. That change in my costing structure will come into when you move to the cost calculation. यहाँ पे मैंने कहीं पे भी आपको cost calculation तो अभी तक बताई ही नहीं है, हम तो revenue side पर ही हैं अभी.
okay, yes.
आपको सबका सिखाया जाएगा. So we'll do revenue, we'll do depreciation, we'll do cost, we'll do debt, capex, everything. इसलिए मैं बोल रहा हूँ धीरे धीरे heavy हो जाएगा. So इसलिए I will give you relevant breaks to absorb this. I am deliberately going a little slow vis-a-vis my speed in the previous session, and that's what I'm trying to tell you. Ki the methodology and the style, what you will start seeing from today and probably next few sessions will be far different, because this is very complicated and heavy for most of you to absorb, and काफी लोगों के लिए नया भी होगा, because जो अभी तक हमने पास में किया एक्सेल या अकाउंटिंग रेशियो जैसे सम ऑफ दी, अच्छा शायद मैंने आपकी बात अकाउंटिंग रेशियो नहीं, बट जो भी फैप वगैरह जो इनिशियल हमने किए थे डिस्कशन, उनमें काफी सारे पीसेस आप लोगों ने पढ़े होंगे इन योर एमबीए एंड फाइनेंस. अभी जो आप पीसेस देखोगे, most of the pieces for most of you would be new, and probably most of you will be looking at the first time. ठीक है, तो इस स्लाइड पे आई एम गिविंग यू 1 मिनट, ठीक है, जस्ट फॉर यू टू एब्जॉर्ब एंड सेटल डाउन विद दिस. ठीक है, सो एक बार अच्छे से ये सब फॉर्मूलेस को देख लो, and ensure you understand each of these. You want to revise this, that's okay. So आपको 1 minute दे रहा हूँ to absorb this, and then we'll move to the next slide. Any questions? Is this clear to everyone? Any questions, queries before we move? So in case no questions, so we'll move to the next slide. Now, we already discussed the first formula, correct? So the first formula is nothing but the third formula on this slide. So third formula in this slide is exactly the first formula in this slide, correct? So we're comfortable with this, correct? So revenue is nothing but the quantity, which is volume into the second formula. Now please pay attention, because this will be relatively more complicated with this previous term. So if you remember, we discussed, I've taken your Excel session, guys, correct? I think in the beginning we had Excel sessions. This is FAP18. Yeah, so I think we had, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we discussed min and max, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yes. We discussed.
So when you say volume, now suppose my capacity to produce, listen this carefully, and then if you want, if you have your notepad and pen pencil handy with you, please try and note these as well. So if my capacity to produce is 100 units, but I have received orders only for 80 units, 80. So my volume would be 80 or 100.
Will be 80.
80, sir.
80.
And
80, sir.
let's take case two. Case two, my capacity is 100 units, but I have received order of 160 units, 160. And if you don't increase your capacity, what would be your volume?
100. 100.
That's the reason I have used the min formula. So the second formula on this slide is minimum of orders in hand and your capacity. And when we're looking at capacity, we're looking at order execution capacity, not the total capacity, how much order you can execute. Any doubt on the second formula? Any doubt on the second formula? Guys, you need to respond, please. I would appreciate if you respond, let me know. Otherwise, I will not be able to make out very easily that if you understood this or not. And this is not some of those easy topics which you will be able to understand after the session.
No, sir.
So could you repeat, please?
So what are no two cases? So if my capacity to produce, if my order execution capacity is 100 units, but I have received 80 orders, I've received orders for 80 units, how much would you produce? 80 or 100?
80.
Case 2, if your order execution capacity is 100, no change on that, but now you have received orders to produce 130 units. How much would you produce now?
100.
100.
Yeah, Varun, you're clear with this? Why 100 in the second curve? Varun?
Yes, sir.
So that's the reason we are using minimum, min. So my production or my volume would be minimum of my capacity और order is received. उन दोनों का minimum होगा. Varun, you with me or not?
Yeah, yes, sir. Right, sir.
Anybody else? Any other doubt in this?
Correct, sir.
See, what would be the difference between total capacity and order execution capacity? Because we are using different terms. So,
Yeah, it's the same thing what we discussed in the previous slide. So if I go back to the previous slide, look at uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth and the sixth formula on this slide. We were using sixth, not the fifth, in the next slide. Just like same thing, जैसे मेरी car है, so if I have a car which has capacity to go up to 200 kilometers per hour, that's my capacity. But I don't run my car at that capacity. I run only at 100 kilometers per hour. So in spite of the fact I have a capacity my engine has a capacity to go up to 200 kilometers per hour. But on an average, I run my car at 100 kilometers per hour, which means I'm only utilizing 50% of the capacity of my car's engine.
okay, sir. Okay.
Any doubt in first two on this slide? First two on this slide.
No, sir.
No, sir. Clear.
Okay. Let's move to the third. So for the second formula, for the computation of the second formula, we need orders in hand. Now, how do we get orders in hand? So again, note down this case. Guys, going forward, please, now, अब जब भी आप मेरा session attend करें, modeling का, ठीक है, please sit with a notepad and pen or pencil in your hand because we will do a lot of number crunching calculations. Okay, so please, you need to get this into this habit of maintaining these things for these modeling sessions. So yeah, so how do we compute orders in hand? So for 2019, suppose I have received total 100 orders, but I have only completed 95 orders. इसका मतलब क्या होगा? 5 orders carry forward हो जाएंगे. Is everybody with me till this point, guys?
Yes.
Now 2020 में मुझे नए ऑर्डर्स जो आए हैं वो 40 है, 40. So my total orders in hand for 2020 would be orders received, new orders received plus carry forward.
Right, sir. 10 plus 40.
That's the third formula. So जो orders in hand लिखे हैं वो है पिछले साल के बचे हुए, जो आपके पास ऑलरेडी पहले से थे बट पिछले साल आप कंप्लीट नहीं कर पाए, वो भी आपके पास है, और प्लस जो इस साल में नए ऑर्डर्स आए. Any doubt in this? Fourth formula on this slide. Guys, any questions in the first 4 formulas on this slide? Please feel free to ask. Don't hesitate. Okay. So in case no question on that, so the next 5th formula, I think pretty simple. What we discussed in the last slide. 5th and 6th देख लीजिए, कोई doubt है तो मुझे पूछिए. 5th and 6th, last 2 formulas on this slide is very similar to what we discussed in the earlier slide. So see, in case you have any doubt on the last 2 formulas. Guys, any doubt on this slide? Are we comfortable to close this slide?
Yes, sir.
So 1 minute wait for us. Let me just write down.
Okay.
Done, sir.
Okay. Anybody else any other question last time? Okay. So now it's pretty common in the modeling that, for example, when you're preparing a revenue model, or let's say you're preparing the entire P&L. P&L may you have revenue, you have costs, and then you have profit, and then profit before tax, then you have interest, depreciation, stuff like this, and so on. So it's pretty possible ये होता है बहुत regularly that you might not be able to find out you're not able to forecast each of those values. What happens, you have some missing data points. So for example, आपने out of 4 3 फाइंड आउट कर लिए, 2 फाइंड आउट कर लिए, बाकी 2 नहीं कर पा रहे आप, डेटा नहीं है या कुछ बिकॉज ऑफ सम रीजन. सो वी ट्राई एंड फिल दोस गैप्स. अगर कुछ गैप्स रह जाते हैं, सम मिसिंग इंफॉर्मेशन हो जाती है, ठीक है, एंड वी ट्राई एंड मूव बैकवर्ड एज वेल. So this the objective of this slide is to tell you that it is practically possible that you might not be able to forecast, or you don't want to forecast each of the line item because you don't want to waste too much of time in forecasting each of these. You forecast some of the important data point and the remaining are being derived from your key data points, rather than trying to waste time or trying to invest time into each of these. Because if अगर मैं individually सबको फोकस करने की कोशिश करूँगा तो बहुत ज़्यादा time लगेगा, which might not be probably appreciated by the client. So that's what the theme of this slide is. Now, moving to this slide, I think we have discussed first three. So I will give you 30 in case you have doubt in first three formulas on this slide. So are we comfortable with the first three? It's pretty similar to what we discussed in the previous couple of slides.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So that the first three, if you're using the first three formulas for forecasting revenue, that's called as bottom up approach for forecasting. And why it is called as bottom up? Because we're moving from the bottom towards top. So for example, अगर मुझे revenue चाहिए तो मैं revenue के लिए पहले individual quantity निकालता हूँ. First I compute quantity individually, then I compute price individually, and then I combine this to get a bigger figure called revenue. That's why it's called as bottom up approach. Any doubts? Okay. The next is the top-down approach. Now, what do you do in top-down approach? So, if I say that your total market size, so suppose, let's take Maruti Suzuki. So suppose in India, let's suppose if I say Maruti Suzuki has a market share of 20%. Okay. Is that clear? We understand what is my market share. Everybody understand what is market share? Out of total market, how much portion you have in your pocket? Now, if Maruti has 20% market share in India into the car segment, let's do total India mein car segment ki value, total market size is 100 crores. So 100 crores का में से 20% Maruti की sales हो जाएगी. That's why revenue for Maruti is market size into market share. देखिए कोई doubt हो तो इस फॉर्मूला पे. So is fourth formula okay? Guys?
Okay, sir.
ठीक है. Now अब मुझे फोर्थ फॉर्मूले के लिए मुझे दो वेरिएबल्स चाहिए, मार्केट साइज एंड मार्केट शेयर. ठीक है. So look at the fifth formula. Now this when you say market size, so suppose if जैसे हमने 100 करोड़ का एग्जांपल लिया ऑटो सेक्टर का. सो नाउ जो इंडिया में ऑटो सेक्टर 2019 में 100 करोड़ का है, सो 2020 में कितना होगा? सो प्रीवियस ईयर मार्केट साइज इनटू 1 प्लस ग्रोथ. Guys,
Yes.
सर एग्जांपल रिपीट करेंगे प्लीज.
सो सपोज अगर 2019 में अगर टोटल कार सेगमेंट का साइज 100 करोड़ था, 2020 में कितना होगा? प्रीवियस ईयर का मार्केट साइज इनटू 1 प्लस ग्रोथ, और अगर ग्रोथ नीचे हो रहा था 1 माइनस ग्रोथ हो जाएगा. अरे सपोज इफ योर सैलरी इज 100 रुपीज प्रीवियस ईयर और कंपनी आपको डिसाइड करती है आपको 10% का इंक्रीमेंट मिला, तो नेक्स्ट ईयर की सैलरी क्या होता है? प्रीवियस ईयर सैलरी इनटू 1 प्लस ग्रोथ ही तो होता है.
राइट सर.
सेम कॉन्सेप्ट है ये भी.
गॉट इट सर.
सिमिलरली फॉर मार्केट शेयर, जो लास्ट फॉर्मूला है स्लाइड पे मार्केट साइज नहीं है, मार्केट शेयर है, तो उसको ठीक कर लीजिए, वो टाइपो है. So the last formula is market share, not market size. So same concept. अगर प्रीवियस ईयर आपका मार्केट शेयर 20% था, तो अगले साल कितना होगा? प्रीवियस ईयर इनटू प्लस माइनस चेंज, परसेंटेज चेंज. सो पिछले ईयर अगर 20% था और अगले साल आपका 5% बढ़ रहा है, तो 20 प्लस 5 25 हो जाएगा. Guys, yes, no?
Yes, sir.
यस सर.
Yes. Yes, sir.
So किसी को डाउट इस स्लाइड पे? And the reason why this approach is called as top-down approach, because if you see in this, we're not moving from micro variables to bigger variables. We are moving from a bigger variable, which is market share, and then market share से करते हम मारुति की sales पे आएंगे. So we're looking from micro, whereas in the previous approach, which is bottom up, we are moving from micro to macro. Any questions, doubt?
Hello. Does this growth rate is same for volume as well as price as well as market size? I mean, the rate at which the volume increases is same as at which the price increases. I mean,
Which growth? So in first approach, which is bottom up, you're bothered about the growth rate of volume and price. Hence, you're calculating individually. In a second approach, which is top-down approach, you're not calculating volume and price individually. You're looking at total as a market size level. Hence, you're not interested in individual growth. That's why it's called a top-down approach. There, does it answer question?
basically, I was asking that the rate at which volume increases is going to similar at which the price increases. I mean, is this both growth rates are different or same?
Which approach, first or second?
First approach, bottom up.
No, not necessary.
Yes. Okay.
Volume growth rate might be different vis-a-vis the price growth rate.
So price growth rate more influenced by the inflation, basically.
Inflation, taxes, reasons like this.
Okay.
टैक्स की वजह से भी प्राइस बढ़ता है ना. हाँ जी.
Yes, sir. The formula is clear, sir. But the question is, how do we get the market size and market share?
नहीं समझा क्वेश्चन. Could you repeat your question? How do you?
How do we get market size and market share?
So these information. So for example, if you're not having that information, for example, there are a lot of industry reports, a lot of company annual reports. For example, Maruti example, Maruti annual report, they mention what is the industry size. There are industry research reports which mentions what is the market size, what is the market share of Maruti and Honda. So we'll use those information. अगर आपके पास वो information नहीं है, वो data ही नहीं है, तो आप second approach नहीं use कर पाओगे, then आपको first करनी पड़ेगी. अगर आपके पास फर्स्ट का भी डेटा नहीं तो आप कुछ नहीं करते. that's the reason why this is very complicated and advanced, correct? कि वो डेटा कैसे निकालो, कहाँ से लेकर आओ, and that's what we'll start discussing as we go into this journey.
Okay, sir. Yeah, got it.
But to keep it simple for you, is this readily and easy? Will all these data would be readily and easily available? The answer is no.
Yes.
That's why you have specialized team called as equity research or modeling team, no? Because that's why it becomes a time-taking activity to get these data churned out from different reports or from different databases.
Yes, exactly, sir. Okay, thank you, sir.
Any other question?
Hello?
Yeah.
Right. So all the formulas are based on previous year plus the growth. So we need to have a previous year figure and the growth variables. But what if the company is new? We have to focus for a new company. So the okay.
In fact, honestly, creating a model for a running company means a company which has a past, is very, very easy. But creating a modeling and the forecasting for a startup company, for a new company, it's very
Agreed.
complicated. And this is again the example that you're asking. So, for example, if I have to forecast a revenue for a startup company, the first year में incorporation में है, ये कोई भी ये formulas work नहीं करेंगे. And this completely changes the dynamics of that calculation. So, again,
Okay.
I'm not confirming anything because I don't know, but I will do one live modeling session for your batch where it will not be one session, it will be more than one session, but we will take one case study for live modeling. And then for some of the batches, I do running company. For some of the batches, I take modeling for a startup as well. वो थोड़ा सा complicated रहता है, so probably it gives more value from learning perspective. ठीक है. So as a batch आप लोग को decide करना, I will give you option in terms of कौन सा करना चाहते हो. If you say कि सर हमें startup कराओ because we want to do more complicated stuff out of it, I'm more than happy I can take a case study which is more on the startup side. If you say as a batch that we don't do too much of complicated stuff out of this and keep it relatively easy for us, then we can do running company as well, where you will see a lot of these formulas would become very we would be in a very easy position to put these formulas and get these numbers done. So as a batch we need to take that call, of course, but we'll discuss this when we reach to that stage. But any thoughts to this? What's your preferences, guys? Do more advanced piece and start moving towards startup piece? कुछ है thoughts अभी इस पे? Anyone wants to share any thought around this?
As per me, we should go for startups because that is more challenging and that is what right now is going on in the industry. So
Yeah, yes, sir. For every 10 deal, we're looking at what 6 to 7 on the startup side. A lot of because the nature of the Indian economy is pretty aggressive, and because of what's happening geopolitically, I think it will become more aggressive in next few years. Okay, because again, from a government perspective, the kind of sense that we're getting in from a strategy perspective, that the focus would be on the Indian segments, on Indian businesses, a lot of Indian origin oriented new segments would start their businesses. Okay, because what's happening in China and stuff like this, which anyways I'm hoping you're aware of. So yes, it is already aggressive. The startup space, the venture capital, the entire private equity stuff is already heavy, but it will become more aggressive once this entire COVID impact goes off. So probably we're looking at somewhere probably from second quarter from next year. We hope that this goes away and we come back to the business cycle and we start running the way we were running before this impact. But any thoughts from others? Keep it on the startup side and make more complicated in advance and get more learning out of it. You want to keep it relatively easy on the startup and on running companies. So guys, बाकी लोगों का क्या view है इस पे?
So we'll go for startup.
Okay.
So we'll go for the startups because in this scenario, I mean, after the post impact is that most of the startups companies will be emerging in India. So there are companies looking at India as a like a future market for them, and they'll step in the market once this situation is settled. So looking at this scenario, I think startup should be the approach.
ठीक है. So again, I'm not finalizing this because, as I told you, the startup would be more complicated in advance. So I would see, because for that to for me to take that, the batch should get to that level that we can do those complicated stuff. But I'm not freezing on either of the side. Let's see as we go along, and when we reach to that stage, by that time you will probably would have absorbed a lot of stuff out of this. So probably that would be the right time for you to decide if you still believe, and I believe, yes, as a batch, you are comfortable in terms of going into more advanced, then of course I have no reservation or no probably restriction to do that as well. But having said this, we'll take that final call when we reach to that stage. Okay. Anybody else any other question on this on these formulas and calculations? Guys, any questions, query, doubt? No? Okay. So let's keep to this. As I told you, these will become heavy and heavy and complicated. So I do not want to bombard too much of stuff in one session, so that when you go back and start revising, it becomes too much for you. Okay. So we'll try and keep it, and that's probably would be the approach in especially next couple of sessions. Try and get into too much of detail, but from a coverage perspective, try and keep it a little small so that you start absorbing this. And when I become comfortable that you have started absorbing those pieces, then probably we'll start running with all full gas. Okay. Any question before we close, guys, for the day?
No, sir.
Okay. So a couple of requests from my side. So please spend some time on these formulas. Go through this in detail. I'm more than happy to take those doubts tomorrow, because what I will do tomorrow will be based on this. If you don't understand these, you will have a lot of problem tomorrow in tomorrow's session. Okay. So that's the reason why I'm giving you a time to revise those pieces at your comfort. When you're comfortable between today and tomorrow, you need to get this understand this 100%, so that when we do more complicated pieces tomorrow, this will act as a foundation for those. Okay, that's the first request. The second is, I've told you assignment that's not due for tomorrow, but that will be due for the next weekend. That you need to take, you need to select a company for yourself. Try and select a company which is listed in India, so that you get information. And उसका आपको बिजनेस मॉडल और रेवेन्यू बिजनेस मॉडल एनालिसिस करना है, जैसे हमने स्टारबक्स और एप्पल का किया. Is this clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Chiri, thanks. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.